My partner of 3 years cheated on me. We decided to work it out. A month later I came home from work early to them moving her things out our apartment. My best friend and partner for around 3 years cheated on me, again. Sorry for the long rant/story. I'm hurting very terribly as some of this just happened a couple days ago. I want to give a little background on our relationship. We were open during both of these events, but as long as we talked to each other about it, it was okay to go on dates with other people as long as we met each other's needs. Not a single time through our relationship did she choose to take advantage of the open relationship by telling me about her feelings. She chose to do it behind my back instead, as well as I never found someone I wanted to sleep with or spend time with aside from her romantically, so I never even really thought about pursuing someone else. The first time it happened we were on a road trip and I drove her about 12 hours to see her friend. We drank a bit and he followed her into the bathroom. We were at his place and so I thought he was just going into his room, otherwise I would not have let that happen, but anyways, they kissed. I was pissed, but I was willing to work on the relationship and let a kiss be just that. We lived more than a 12-hour drive away. She deleted his number, blocked it, and cried and apologized to me profusely. I was able to gain trust back in her for a long while. That was about 1.5 years ago. We went on a longer road trip and camped for the most part. We had our ups and downs. We were in a crossover with a pop-up tent, not a lot of room for space. Near the end of the trip she wanted to break it off, but we talked it out and she ended up crying and apologizing again for wanting to leave, and she clung to me for the next few months after our trip. A few months later we both felt very happy in the relationship, in my opinion. The road trip ruined my car, so we were sharing her car, since we trashed mine. She was having hormonal issues and went to a gynecologist and had a hormone panel done and found out she has some sort of major hormonal disorder potentially caused by her stopping taking birth control. We worked through some stuff and learned how to communicate better when she was feeling down, and she was continuously showing interest in me, calling me to hang out, and coming to visit me, at least 5 days a week. Sometimes I even stayed at her parents' place. She eventually decided to ask me if I wanted to move in together somewhere. Without giving away the location, we moved to my favorite place. It was my favorite before and after our long trip, and she loved it too. We moved here about 3 to 4 months ago. She had started hanging out and talking with this guy from her second job a little too much. Her first job she worked with me, and since we have been sharing a car, one day she forgot to pick me up and ditched class for him. She goes to school online since we moved. I didn't get mad at her. She told me his name and that they were just friends. I dropped it. I fully 100% trusted her. But I told her I wanted to meet her friends if she was going to spend so much time with them. I never got to meet him except for in the following ways. A few weeks later I went on a hike with the car and she was going to walk home. Well, she forgot her keys and I had locked all the windows at the time because we were having some issues with the homeless population in our area. Before she left for work I made sure to ask her if she had my keys so she could get in the apartment. Well, my hike took way longer than I thought, and when I came down I got a text from her saying she was locked out and upset. She had been out there for 7 or 8 hours by the time I finished. She said she went to go smoke, up at one of our favorite overlooks, within walking distance from the apartment. I called her to make sure she was okay and she said she was hanging out with a friend. When I told her I loved her on the phone and said I'd see her soon, she said okay and hung up the phone. I absolutely knew something was up, so I drove down from my hike, and I drove to the overlook. I caught them there hugging and kissing each other. I regret some of the following things I did. I started yelling at her, didn't say a thing to him. A few minutes later we got in the car and we drove off. I drove a little erratically and I scared her a bit, not on purpose, I was just upset, but because of that and she wasn't talking to me I kept driving until she started talking to me. She told me she wasn't happy and I had been previously asking her almost every day how she was doing, and if there was anything I needed to work on, or anything I could do to make her happy. We're stuck in this lease for another 8 to 9 months at this point, and I told her if she was unhappy and she wanted to leave that this wasn't the way to do it. She said she would work on it for a month and go talk to a therapist about what she actually needs and wants. I said I'd do the same so I could work on myself and potentially gain her trust back. We drove back home safe and sound. A couple of weeks go by of us working together. I actually thought we were doing really well compared to previously. I was happy before she cheated on me, but we had quite a bit more sex and she planned more cute fun dates for us. She was telling me she loved me in the morning more, and we were solving our problems more healthily. I decided, however, that us working it out until the end of the month wasn't working for me. It was like walking on eggshells sometimes. I told her that if she was planning on leaving at the end of the month still, that she should leave. That way she was being honest with me, and I told her that it was putting a lot of pressure on me, and that our relationship has been long enough that I think it's worth way more than a month of trying, and that therapy would take longer than the rest of the month. She said she didn't want to leave and that we would remove the end of the month timeline on our relationship. She never went to therapy, however. It got quite a bit better right after that. Her parents visited us from quite a distance away, and they were talking about coming up for next Thanksgiving and visiting us, and we could stay in a condo. They were making future plans with us being together. That was last week. We went on quite a few really nice dates after they left, some hot springs, to a pumpkin patch, and she took me out for sushi. On the way to one of the dates, I noticed her deleting some text messages and texting a number I didn't recognize. I asked her about it. She said that she was looking for a trailer to put on the back of her car so we could go finish the rest of our road trip we didn't get to finish, since we no longer had the pop-up tent. I checked the trailer post online and the number matched up. She told me sorry that it looked shady. She just didn't want to tell me until she figured out she wanted to buy it. She wanted it to be a surprise and told me she would tell me next time because she didn't want me to think she was being shady. I felt way closer to her. She was trying to do something for us in our future. I was ecstatic. While we were at sushi a different day, we were talking about how we could get better for each other. We talked about future plans and had a wonderful night. She took me to work the next morning. We talked about growing trust and what would be a good way for me to work on trusting her more, and she said she'd think about it, and that she loved me and she would see me after work. Well, I got to come home early because something happened at work, so they didn't need me the rest of the day. She didn't text me back or answer the phone when I called to pick me up, so I walked home. I showed up and she was at the apartment with the guy she cheated on me with, loading up a haul with all of her stuff. I didn't fight, argue, I just wanted to talk to her. I didn't try to get her to stay. I couldn't even talk to her. The guy was like a bodyguard, thinking I'd hurt her, and I'd never do that. He got in the way of every conversation I could have had to get closure. She left me a note and told me goodbye and drove away. This happened 2 days ago. I don't even have a choice about whether or not I want to work on the relationship anymore. I love her so much and I hope that she does something wonderful with her life. I feel so betrayed. I can't believe she's gone. It's like being in a terrible dream I can't wake up from, and each day I expect her to still be here. Anyone who took the time to read this whole thing, I really appreciate your time. I hope you're doing well on your journey to being happy with whatever you choose to do. Edit. Some individuals have commented on the fact that it was an open relationship, so I wanted to put this here. We absolutely talked about our open relationship boundaries, and within those boundaries I had said for me to be comfortable with it, we both had to be open and honest about starting to see someone new. We had to make sure the other partner wasn't just trying to steal one of us away, and make sure they respected our relationship as well as get a STD test. I was comfortable with the terms of our relationship but not with what she did. The boundaries were set long before we ever moved in with each other. Second story. She's dating even though we still live together, still feels like cheating. I've been on the sofa for a year now. We've been still living together because of the kids, 5 and 7, and with COVID-induced job uncertainty there was no way we could afford 2 separate places. She said she wanted me to move out so she could have her space and privacy, but then later on we were getting along and she said that we would try to coexist and co-parent. I had come to accept living the rest of my life without love or physical affection if it meant being able to keep my family together and stay with my kids. But now she's been going out on dates. Out of nowhere she'll grab her keys and just announce, "I'll be back later." Or I'll get home from work and she'll breeze out the door with no explanation. I kept holding out hope that she'd change her mind and maybe if her anxiety and claustrophobia, it's basically a one-room studio, could settle down, she wouldn't be so desperate for an escape. I'm still functioning like a loving, supportive partner, just not able to tell her I love her or touch her. The dating thing, though. That's pretty much the final straw, isn't it? There's no coming back from that, is there? I'm basically a platonic roommate who cooks and cleans for her and contributes financially. I guess I've been in denial, hoping she'd eventually change her mind. I don't know how to accept that it's really over, or how to deal with a physical separation beyond the emotional one that already destroyed me. How do you survive not seeing your kids every day? I get the up and take them to school every morning. I make them dinner and get them to bed. Am I really supposed to just throw away the 9 years I invested fully into another person and just move on like it was nothing? Somehow switch off and not love her anymore? Start over from scratch, except we're still a family and still financially intertwined? I never gave up on her, but I don't think I can bear a front row seat of her going out and doing who knows what with other guys. I know that we aren't together anymore in her mind, but for some reason I thought we were still at least together in a practical, life partner sense, even if she didn't want in a romantic way anymore. I'm falling apart and crying myself to sleep now, not sure how to take the next steps. It takes everything I have just to keep up a mask and not break down in front of them. Every day that she feels trapped with me living in her space makes her more resentful and want me gone even more. I don't even know what I'm asking. I'm tired and not thinking straight, all mixed up and just needed somewhere for the pain to go for a few minutes. I can't let go. I don't want to.